Hello everybody, welcome back. I am the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be talking about Lulu. So this is going to be an in-depth guide for how to play Lulu as of patch 7.3, and I don't think the play patterns are going to change that much in the near future. So I think Lulu is an excellent pick right now in my newest tier list. I put her in the S class along with Janna and Zyra. So those are the three best champions as of 7.3 for solo queue across a vast swath of elos, in my opinion. So let's talk about why is Lulu strong. So I've got a few different sections for you here, and you can find all of these sections in the description to this video as well. So you don't have to watch the entire thing. These are usually about an hour long. I'm not sure how long it's going to be because I'm recording it right now. But it'll let you jump around and find the sections that are most interesting to you. But we're going to talk about why are utility supports in general, why are they gaining in popularity, gaining in strength near the end of the 7.3 cycle, and I expect this to continue into 7.4. Why pick Lulu in general? So what's she good at? What are some of her weaknesses? Matchups, items, runes, masteries, popular comparisons. So we'll talk about Lulu versus Janna and Lulu versus Karma. How to lane with her, and then I've got a video to kind of show you how that works, and then how to team fight with her. Then at the end, a link to my Lulu playlist, which I'm going to be adding a lot more videos to very soon. Right now I have 7 videos, but I've been playing her a lot lately, and I'm going to upload some more clips of her very soon. So stay tuned for that. Okay, but first of all, let's start with, and let me go ahead and boost up the size there, make it a little more legible. Let's go ahead and start with why are utility supports in general gaining in strength right now, because the consensus had been that AP supports were the way to go, or damage supports were the way to go. And this is what I talked about in my Zyra guide, which you should also check out on my main channel. I'll show you at the end of this video what all the channel has to offer. But AP supports were very strong because AD carries were very weak early on in Season 7, and junglers were extremely strong and could clear very fast, and they could come down and harass your lane. Also, because of the autofill system, it made it necessary to compensate for people who might go 0-10 in top lanes. That was very prominent. People were raging a lot and all of that kind of stuff at the beginning of the season. So you had to be very strong in lane. It was a very early game dominant meta, and AP supports just gave you the best chance at that. Now, they are still good. I still think that Zyra is the best overall support right now, but I think that Lulu is a very close second place, and I think that she will probably rise over the next couple of patches. We'll see. I'm not sure if she'll be number 1, but she's a great pocket pick into very specific compositions. So let's talk about why. So why are utility supports becoming strong then? Well, the ranking system is becoming a bit more consistent as of late. And what I mean by that is it's, about a month and a half into the season, I guess 2 months, they started early this year into the season. And so people who rage a lot and people who can't play multiple roles and get autofill, those people will have slowly lost elo by this time. And so if you're being consistent, if you're not raging, if you are, playing things in your wheelhouse, if you're always prepared, even if you get autofilled. Supports never get autofilled, but if you play other roles and you're prepared to play anything because you might get autofilled, then you're going to have risen at least a little bit, probably over time. And those other people that are the ragers and the people that get autofilled and can't play other stuff and things like that, they fall down over time. It just takes time for all that to shuffle out, because sometimes people just don't play a lot of games, and so it takes time for the elos to equalize. And the games are feeling a little bit better. There's still some inconsistency, but I think overall it's slightly better than it was. So that will continue to improve as the season goes on. So what that means is you don't have to have an early game, super dominant, punishing champion after the elos shake out a little bit, because you're not going to have those people as often that are going to go something like 0-10 in lane. They're going to fall down to lower elos. So that's a feature of if you're in gold or plat or something like that. At the lower elos that still might happen, but just rest assured those people will eventually fall down lower than you are. Even if you're mid bronze, bronze 2 or bronze 3, those people will eventually shuffle down to bronze 5 or whatever. So it takes a while for all that to filter out. But if you're just being strong mentally yourself, and having a versatile champion selection pool, then you should be okay. Okay, another feature is that games are slowing down. So AP supports are particularly good in the early game when they can really punish their lane, gain an advantage, and snowball that advantage for the rest of their team. That's why they have also been very popular, is that people are playing very snowbally champions like Graves, Kha'Zix, Hecarim, and such throughout a lot of the preseason. And so getting an advantage early is very important. Also, towers are very easy to take, and dragons are very easy to take and powerful. So that hasn't changed. But the jungle pathing has slowed down. They've made the jungle a lot tougher, and it gives a lot less experience now. So junglers, it's more rare. It's rarer for junglers to come out, you know, at level 3 when you're level 2 and come gank you really quickly. So the timing of the ganks is lower than it has been for many junglers. They can still get out there and try to make a level 2 gank on you, so you have to be careful for that. But it's a lot more rare than it used to be. Okay. And they're making some changes that are going to help this in 7.4, at least from the public beta server that I've seen so far. You can go to Surrender at 20. I've got it right here. It's a wonderful website. It tells you the kind of changes that they're planning for the next patch. So be sure to check that out. I'm going to summarize it right here for you, though. So there's going to be less gold for first tower. So I think they're knocking off 100 gold for first tower, which is important. That's less of an early game snowball. A little bit. They are nerfing lethality. I don't remember the exact ways that they're nerfing these items. I think they are on Ghostblade. They're knocking down the lethality by 5. I'm not sure the exact numbers, and it might change because once again, this is a public, you know, it's a test server, so it's not what's actually going to happen. And when the new patch does come out, of course, I'll have full coverage of it with a new tier list and all that stuff, so stay tuned for that. But from what I understand, they are nerfing lethality items, particularly Edge of Night and Ghostblade. So I imagine those are going to do less damage and probably have less utility, which is good because those are very early game items. They are very powerful as soon as Kha'Zix gets that Ghostblade, or as soon as Graves gets it, or, you know, basically any champion that's popular right now, as soon as they get that Ghostblade, it's a big problem. So if the game slows down a little bit, then, or if lethality gets nerfed, rather, the game's going to slow down a little bit. People aren't going to be as dangerous early on. And the early they're taking a lot of damage off of Masteries. So you can read about it here. You know, they're changing Precision, they're changing Merciless, they're changing Fervor, they're changing Battle Trance, Double-Edged Sword, and Bounty Hunter. So they're changing a lot of the early game Mastery. So it's going to lower everybody's damage by 5 to 10%, depending on which Masteries they get. So that's a lot in the early game. So once again, that's going to slow it down. So slower games favor utility supports, because utility supports are really good at team fighting, and you're going to have more frequent team fights that are going to be at a more even level in the mid to late game if the games go slower, if people have a harder time snowballing early game. And this means that champions like Lulu and Janna in particular will become very strong, because they just have so many abilities that are so versatile in different situations. They're so useful, and they scale very well with Redemption and Locket. Now, they did nerf Redemption a couple of patches ago, but it still is an amazing item. So I think it'll still be a really good build. Heals and shields also scale very well with resistances. So if your team actually gets some tank items, eventually, if you have 1 or 2 tanks on your team, they get some tank items, and those shields and heals are particularly good on tanks. And damage supports conversely fall off as the enemy gets shields and heals, and as they get resistances. So all of this means that utility supports, particularly Lulu and Janna, I think are going to be even stronger in 7.4. They're already becoming quite strong, but I think they're going to get even better then. Okay, so why Lulu specifically? And just to put a bow on this, you know, the TLDR version there is the game slowing down. This favors utility supports. The ranking system is more consistent, so you don't need early AP pressure to carry the 0-10 top as often. And as resistances become more popular, as damage wanes, then shielding and healing helps with that. Okay, so why Lulu? There are a lot of different utility supports that people can pick, right? You've got your Soraka, you've got your Nama, you've got your Nami, you've got your Janna, you've got your Karma, you've got Lulu, and a handful of other ones. So what is it about Lulu that makes her particularly strong? Well, let's go ahead and just start with some Lulu basics. I've got the link here for you. This is League Wikia. If you've never used this, this is a very, very useful resource. It tells you all kinds of numbers about various champions so that you can really dig into it and mathematically figure out what's going to be the most efficient thing. Okay, so the most important thing to think about Lulu, I believe, let's look at her history really quickly, is that they have buffed her. They've kind of stealth buffed her over the last half a year or so. They've stealth buffed her like 3 or 4 times. And a lot of people have not mentioned this. I mentioned it in my patch notes videos, but a lot of people kind of gloss over this. And I think that these are starting to add up and become pretty popular. Okay, so this is a pretty big one. So Pick's formula changed to where she does a lot more damage. So it goes from 15 to 117 instead of 9 to 105. So it doesn't sound like a big deal, but you know, you've got 27 damage on hit at level 3 now, whereas you used to only have 21. So that's 25% more damage on your auto attacks at level 3. At least the bonus that you get on your auto attacks. So it doesn't seem like a lot. And in game, it's not going to matter. But your first few levels 1 to 5, it's a big deal. So that gives her a lot more harass. Glitter Lance, mana reduced as well at all ranks. So by 10, which means, you know, that's 1/6. That's 17% less mana for this harassment in lane. So I think that that can be particularly good too. So once again, you can harass a lot more. So you can do your E, Q, auto, and it's going to do a lot more damage than it used to do in the first, you know, 1 to 5 levels. So this is one thing that Lulu has kind of run into in the past, is that she's not as good at early game harassment as someone like Sona or as someone like Nami or whatever, and she can get bullied out by those champions. So giving her this extra early game harass is pretty nice. Whimsy, this was 6.16. I talked about this at the time. Really good. One of the main things I complained about is that the cooldown was too long. So they added extra bonus attack speed by a lot of extra attack speed, and they reduced the cooldown. So that was really good. And then now the slow gives 2 seconds at all ranks for the Q. So you can just go 1 point in Q if you want to and get the full 2-second slow, which is a big deal. It's an 80% slow, so it's pretty dang nice. And they increased her base stats a little bit. So they increased her movement speed, and they increased her mana. Just a couple of things. But, you know, the big one in recent memory is this one right here. Extra bonus attack speed, extra cooldown reduction, and then extra early game stuff right here. Okay. So she has been getting buffed a lot, and champions like Karma have been getting nerfed a lot over in recent memory. So, okay, so how Picks works is... with each bolt to the first enemy it hits. Okay, so it's 5 to 39 to each bolt. So whenever she fires, it's 1 and then auto. So it's 3 things. So she's excellent at killing Zyro plants, and she's excellent at killing Malzahar minions because she one-shots them, because it's 1, 2, 3. It counts as 3 hits. So it just instant kills pets, which is really nice. I was already playing her last patch before they nerfed Malzahar into him because she's very, very good at a Malzahar. So each one of your auto attacks deals quite a bit of extra bonus damage early on. So that's really, really nice if you sneak in a bunch of autos. And if you cast Picks on somebody, so if you cast your E on somebody, then they get the benefit of those auto bonuses. So if it's someone who has like a Hurricane and they auto attack really quickly, like a Caitlyn or a Twitch or something, then they're going to get the Pick shot on every single one of those. So that's a lot of damage. So her passive is pretty nice. Placing Picks on different people can have different effects too. It's kind of like an Oriana ball. It sort of opens you up to be able to do different things, particularly hit things with your Q, which we'll talk about here real quickly. All right, so her Q is a straight line shot that you shoot and that your fairy shoots. Okay, so it's important to realize that both you and the Picks itself shoot the bolts. All right, now only one bolt can damage somebody though. So if they get hit by both of them, it doesn't matter. They can only be damaged by one bolt. So it has a 7-second cooldown at all levels. It's pretty cost efficient and does decent damage. I mean, 80 damage for 50 mana cost is pretty good. And it scales all the way up to 260. Now, it doesn't have a great AP ratio. It's only got a 0.5 because they don't want mid Lulu back or top lane Lulu because those were very oppressive in the past. But she has low AP scaling, but pretty high base damages at a pretty reasonable mana cost. I mean, she's getting over 4 to 1 which is a good ratio on damage. So it costs, you get 4 times the damage as the mana that you put in. So that's pretty cost efficient. And it's got 925 range, so pretty nice poke range, actually. It's kind of a slow moving projectile, not super slow, but it's okay. So there's that. So remember that if you put the shield on somebody, we'll go ahead and talk about the shield really quick. So it interacts with the Q in some interesting ways. So the shield is only 650 range, so it's a lot closer range. That's for the heal and the damage portion. So that's a lot shorter than Janna. Janna's shield range is 800, and so is Karma's. So she has a much shorter shield range. You got to keep that in mind. But it can damage people. So it starts at 80 and scales up to 200. So not as much damage as Q. And it costs more mana. But it's guaranteed to hit. It's just a point-click move. It also doubles as a shield. Now, it's a powerful shield. It's only 650 range, but it has the same power as Janna's shield. It's 240.6 ratio, so the same as Janna. It's just lower range. Same cooldown. I think it's even the same mana cost as Janna. It's pretty close. Janna's might actually cost a bit more. Now, it doesn't give the bonus AD that Janna's does, but it still is useful. I think the way they could really crank up Lulu and put her into the limelight is to put this bonus attack speed on her shield. I've been calling for that for a very long time. So that her W doesn't do everything. Because right now, we'll talk about the W in a second, but that is one of the most powerful support abilities in the whole game. But the problem is it does too much. Like, there are too many different things you can do with it, and it has a pretty long cooldown. So her other abilities are kind of lackluster somewhat compared to other supports like Janna, because her W is just that powerful that they have to balance it out. So moving this attack speed over to her picks would be excellent. And it would make people want to level this up more. And it would give you a more clear direction, like either use the W to engage or use the W to polymorph. And then you wouldn't have to make the decision, well, do I want to use the W for the attack speed or not? And you could just put the attack speed with the shield. Or even if they did like lower the attack speed, or if you put the picks on the enemy, it lowered their attack speed. That would be cool. So like if it could give a bonus attack speed of up to 30% or lower the attack speed of someone that you put picks on by 15 or 20%, I think that would make for some very interesting strategic choices. But we'll let the balance team figure that out. But I think that would be cool, and it would make sense if you put picks on somebody. That's what buffs them or debuffs them. Because I could see picks, thematically just flying around, messing with people, so that, their attack speed is lowered, or increasing your attack speed by, like helping your person reload, or helping give them the vision to aim faster, or something like that. It just thematically makes sense, I think, to have putting picks on somebody either harass them or help them do their job better. But anyways, in the current reality we live in, picks is good in lane for shielding, or for dealing damage rather, setting up your Qs, and for shielding later in the game. So by setting up your Qs, and we'll talk about harassment patterns here in a second, what happens is you put E on them to damage them. It gives true sight of them for 4 seconds, and your fairy is now on them. Now it's important to watch this, and I'll show you when we show the video clips here in a little bit. You can fire your Q onto them based on where Pix is. So if Pix is over their right shoulder, this is my right shoulder. If Pix is over their right shoulder, you can fire it to the left, and it'll fire across them one of the Pix bolts and hit them. So it's not quite a guaranteed hit, but it's very, very close to a guaranteed hit if you watch what you're doing with the Pix. Rather than trying to just aim the skill shot, if you land the E on them, it's almost automatically going to be you also hit your Q. So it's really nice to combo those together. Another combination is if you have someone running in, let's say you have a Hecarim running in, you can put your E on Hecarim. It has no leash range, so even if he runs 2,000 units ahead of you, then you could still have your E on him, and then whenever he gets close to people, you can use your Q, cast it, and it'll fire off of the Hecarim, potentially hit one of them and slow them, or do extra damage. So there's a lot of skill behind, potentially, or at least more than people think, behind putting your E on someone and then using the Q to hit them. Now, don't underestimate this true sight, too. We'll mention that later, but this is excellent against a Vayne. It stops her from going invisible. It stops Akali from going invisible. It stops Kha'Zix from going invisible. It's really, really good against certain matchups. So that's just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. If they have invisible, annoying things, then it could help. It's not going to help you as much against Twitch or Rengar because they're going to show up. Well, Definitely not against Rengar, but against Twitch, it's not going to help against his initiate, but it could help to stop him from running away. So if you're against the Twitch and he just wants to go invisible and run out of lane, you put the picks on him, he's not going invisible. He will still get the movement speed bonus, but he won't be invisible. So that's just a nice little perk of the picks. And that's how it interacts with the Q, is you put the fairy on him, then you use your Q. Add some extra options. Another trick you can do is you can also pick some minion, and this used to be popular when her mana costs were a bit lower and her AP ratios are much higher. You can shield a minion. I don't think it actually shields them anymore, but it does put picks on them if you put an E on them. And then you can use your Q off of that minion to hit someone else. So, you know, if you're only 650 range from the minion, then you put the shield on the minion, then you get that extra 925 range off of that minion, and you could throw your Q from there. So theoretically, you could harass them from, 650 plus 925. You could harass them from 1575 distance if you get a max range Q off of a minion picks. So that's very mana intensive, because obviously you're not dealing damage to them with the help picks here. But if they just have that one sliver of health yet, and they're just not looking for that, if you can catch them off guard with your Q, then that can be a good way to finish people off under tower or something in really sneaky ways. Okay. Whimsy. So this is her marquee move here. So it only costs 65 mana. It's very cost efficient. The mitigating factor here is the cooldown. It has a very long cooldown. But you get so much off of leveling this up. This is, like I said, this is probably the most powerful single point utility spell in the game. It's up there. It's definitely in contention. So there are 3 different modes of this, at least. So when she casts it on an ally, then it increases their movement speed by 30% for a certain length of time, up to 4 seconds, which is a long time. I mean, if you think of a Karma increase in move speed, I think it's 1.5 seconds. So this is almost 3 times the duration of Karma and her shield that she can put on people. So it's less burst speed, but it's more consistent movement speed over a longer period of time. So it's great for initiates. Now, you also get an extra 5% move speed for every 100 AP that you have, but you're not going to be building on an AP on Lulu. At least, not typically, not on support Lulu. And it increases their attack speed based on levels. You can get up to a 45% increase in attack speed. That's a lot. I mean, that's like, isn't that 3 daggers? That's 900 gold worth of attack speed. So that's pretty dang nice. It's particularly on champions that scale well with attack speed, like Vayne, Twitch, Jinx, anything that gets extra benefit out of attack speed. Which everything does, but they have on hit, and they usually build Hurricane, and so it scales particularly well with them. Whereas someone like Varus doesn't, or Jhin, especially Jhin, doesn't really benefit at all from attack speed, like very, very little. So it's not nearly as good on Jhin, but it's really good on champions like I just mentioned, Hurricane users. Okay, and then the other, and this is probably the most important one, I think, it can polymorph someone, which is basically a stun, but they can still move around for a little bit, but they can't use summoners, they can't do anything, they can't do damage. It's very, very powerful, and it lasts for 2.25 seconds. That is an eternity. That's almost as long as a complete Malzahar ultimate channel on somebody. It's a very, very long time for a point-click move. Like, there's no skill shot. It's on, you know, if you get 40% CDR, it's like an 8% or 8-second cooldown or something, and it lasts for 2.25. So there's only going to be 6 seconds of downtime before you can just keep spamming this on people. That's a very, very big deal. And this is excellent for shutting down things like a Katarina jumping on your team, a Kha'Zix jumping on your team, a Rengar jumping on your team. It's really, really good. Now, they can QSS it, but unlike Quicksilver Sash, if you don't know what that item is, that removes all disables, and that shuts down Malzahar big time. But unlike Malzahar, who can't do anything for 2 minutes if someone has a QSS, and they QSS his ultimate, you know, she just has to wait another 6 seconds, and she can do something. And in the meantime, she can still shield people, she can still ultimate people. She still has a lot of other great things she can do. She can still slow people while you're waiting on that polymorph to come back up. So this is what makes her excellent with, or against assassins, rather. It's because they jump in, boom, CC'd for 2.25 seconds. It's brutal. Trust me, if you've never had this done to you, it's infuriating. It's a very, very long stun. So that's probably one of the main reasons that I pick her right now, is because she's so good into high damage assassins in particular, and that's what everybody's playing right now. So you just polymorph them, boom. You got that Camille, it's a huge problem. You got the Graves, it's a huge problem. Knock them all out. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And we'll talk about when and where to use this here a little bit later in the video, but just suffice to say, very, very powerful ability. Her final ability is Wild Growth. So you cast this on an ally, it makes them huge, and they knock people up, which don't underestimate this. This knock up is really powerful. It's like a 1 second knock up, I think. So if you have like a Kha'Zix that jumps in the middle of 4 people and you cast this, it knocks up all 4 people for extra crowd control. So it's really good. And don't be afraid to use it like that. I see a lot of people want to save the ultimate until someone's almost dead. You don't have to do that because it's not a heal. It is bonus health. So you can even cast this on a full health Kha'Zix that jumps in, and it's not going to be wasted. He gets the bonus 300 health. I'll guarantee you if he jumps into 4 people, he's going to take 300 damage. So it's not a waste. So don't be afraid to use it early if you can knock up like 3 or 4 people with it. I often use it for the crowd control just as much as the shield because it crowd controls and it slows people by quite a lot. I mean, 30-45% slow is pretty good depending on your level for 7 seconds. So it's pretty good. Oh, it knocks him up for 0.75, so not a full second, but pretty close. It's a substantial knockup. Also, if you have something like a Yasuo on your team, that's an excellent alley-oop for Yasuo. You know, it's got some great combos. So let's say that, you know, your Hecarim dives into 4 people, you instantly Wild Growth them, knock them all up, your Yasuo follows up, boom. Like, it's a great alley-oop with Yasuo. So you can use it to save, you can use it to crowd control, you can use it as a persistent slow, and it's on a relatively low cooldown. So, you know, 110 seconds, that's less than 2 minutes. That's a lot. So don't be afraid to use this. If someone is getting into trouble, just use it. Get them out of it. It's fine. Like a Janna ult has a 140 second cooldown, so this is much, much faster than that. So often you want to kind of be sort of conservative with Janna ults, but with this, you know, just fire away. So once again, even if someone's not about to die, if you think it's going to help secure a kill, that knock-up and the slow to allow your Kha'Zix to stick to people. I keep saying Kha'Zix because he's super good right now. He's very popular, and Lulu is like probably the best support with him. She's great. So she's great against assassins, like I just said, but she's also awesome with assassins. So she can speed them up for 4 seconds. They can run in. So Rengar can run in super fast and get people. Hecarim can run in super fast. Graves can get in there. Kha'Zix, all of these heavy damage dealers. Anyone that could get kited, Lulu helps fix that. So you have a super fed Gnosis on your team, but the enemy keeps kiting him. Boom. Throw Whimsy on them. Throw an ult on them. They're not getting away. And you can Glitter Lance to slow them down even more after you shield the person. So Lulu is excellent with Engage Assassins. She basically turns people into tanks. So if you don't have a tank on your team, she can turn them into a tank with a lot of her abilities. So very, very powerful. Very versatile, lots of different things you can do with her, but I'm just trying to talk about different play patterns you can use because there's so many different ways you can play Lulu that it just takes a lot of practice, but I'm trying to point it out so you know what to practice. Okay, so those are the Lulu basics. So her strength, respectable harass, as I explained, pretty good. Strong shield, 240 base shield, really good. Stronger than Karma's, matches Janna's. In its shielding ability. Janna's is better because it has the bonus AD, but it's still a good shield. Excellent single target burst. She has one of the highest single target burst heals in the game. I mean, Soraka's is higher, probably, but, you know, being able to drop 450 health on someone immediately and shield them for an extra 240, that's a lot. I mean, that's like a 700 burst shield. It's basically instant. Whereas Janna, like, she can heal people, but it takes time to do that, and you have to be close enough to do that. So if you have someone who's running really far ahead, Janna's not going to be able to ult and heal them through that, probably. Janna's much better at disengaging, so if people are jumping onto you, knocking them all back, and then healing through that. So Janna's really good. I'm just talking about, like, what Lulu can do that Janna can't. That 2.25 second crowd control is just tremendous. Like, just try it out. When you have a Katarina jump in there and you polymorph her, or a Kha'Zix, and they sit there for 2 seconds and don't do anything and die, you're just going to feel so good. It's just glorious when that happens. All right, great engage potential. Like I said, the 4-second speed of 30% is massive. There aren't many champions that can speed people up more than that. Probably Zillion can do it, and I've had people mention, well, why don't you try Zillion out more? And I might. But Lulu It's just a lot more reliable in many circumstances. But anyway, she has a lot of great engage. And a great auto attack steroid, both on herself in lane. So her auto attacks actually hurt quite a bit in lane. So she's got nice harassment. But also on the enemy as they scale up, you know, as they get that crit, as they get those hurricanes, you know, those type of things, then this auto attack speed is really good. Especially if we start to see things like Caitlyn and Twitch come back into the meta. So if they nerf lethality a lot in 7.4, it remains to be seen whether or not they're going to do that. But if we get the attack speed champions back, and she's going to take off like a rocket ship. It's really, really good with that. And so will Janna. So, I mean, the utility supports that I talked about, mostly Lulu and Janna, really want Hurricane users. Like, they're good with Varus. You know, they're okay with Ashe, Varus, and Jhin. But they're much, much better with your Caitlyn's, your Twitches, and those type of champions, your Vaynes. So it'll be good. If the tanks come back and Vayne becomes a lot more popular to crack the tanks, then Lulu and Janna will also gain a lot of popularity. Okay, but her weaknesses, she has no sustain, so she doesn't have any heals. So she kind of shares that weakness with Janna, but Janna can at least pop her ult if she needs to heal people through. But she can get poked out by Ziggs, Varus, Zyra, any kind of poke champions. Very squishy, so if she gets caught, she's going to die. She doesn't have a panic button. I mean, her R can save you, and then if your W comes off cooldown, you know, you can use your W on yourself to try to run away. But overall, you know, if you get a Kha'Zix or a Rengar or something that jumps on you, it's probably going to be... It's going to be a rough time. She has relatively low range, so this is one thing that does distinguish her from someone like Karma or Janna, is that she can't play quite as far back, so she's a bit more dangerous because her shield is only 650 range, as is her Whimsy. So pretty close range, so you have to get in there just a little bit more to get stuff done. So that makes her inherently a bit more dangerous. And she's very difficult to play correctly, which we'll talk about. I think she's up there, like maybe not quite as much as Thresh, but it's close. It's close in terms of difficulty because you have to make the right decision, and her mechanics in team fights, like you really have to click on the right people to do the right thing at the right time, which can be very, very difficult. And we'll talk about why here in just a little bit. She's extremely hard to play correctly. She's up there with your Thresh, your Bard, and such. So she takes a lot of practice to use correctly. So she's good with Vayne, Caitlyn. So just like I said, the auto attackers that get Hurricane or just benefit very strongly from auto attacks like Vayne. She'd be good with Twitch as well. And she's good with Kha'Zix, Hecarim. As I just explained, champions that want to get in there but may not necessarily be the tankiest, especially early on into the game. Very strong there. And Yasuo, because she can alley-oop. If you have an engaged champion, she can, or just Yasuo himself runs in there, you can alley-oop, knock them all up. It's great for Yasuo ult. So she's very good against Malzahar. As I explained, you can one-shot his pets. You have multiple ways to interrupt his ultimate. You can just harass and beat him up in lane. She's excellent. Like, if you see a Malzahar, highly consider picking Lulu in the game because she will crush him. She's very, very good. And then she's good against these assassin champions that usually either have really high burst damage or rely very heavily on their mobility to escape, because you can't really escape if you're crittered. So if you're Fizz and he jumps in and he's thinking he's going to escape, he's not escaping. Just don't let someone like Fizz juke your W, because it is a projectile. It does move. It's not instant cast. She throws it at him. So it can get blocked by a Wind Wall, it can get blocked by Braum, and it can get juked by a Fizz going up on his Trident. So just make sure you don't get faked. Or a Camille jumping to do her ultimate. So make sure that you don't get faked by that. But otherwise, she's excellent against these type of champions. LeBlanc, great against LeBlanc. If she thinks she's just going to jump in there and do some stuff and you polymorph her and she can't go back, that's a good way to shut her down. Or Kassadin, just anything that's assassin, high mobility. Okay, she's not as great with Ezreal, Lucian, or Tristana. I mean, she's okay, but like with Ezreal, you could play something a bit more dangerous. Like, he's not going to be able to follow up on your early game harassment. He's already really safe, so you may not necessarily... I mean, she's not bad with him, but there are other champions that could go a lot better with Ezreal. Lucian, she's okay. He can match the early game harassment. It's okay with Lucian, but you probably would want someone a little bit more aggressive early on to leverage Lucian's early game power spikes, so probably like a Zyra, but, you know, she's okay. And Tristana, I don't even know why I mentioned Tristana's just not good with any support, frankly, right now. She's in a pretty bad spot. But she's passable with basically anybody. But you don't, like, ideally, you don't want to play her against the other ladies that sustain in lane. So Soraka, Sona, Nami, those are all bad news. Zyra's pretty bad news. And if you're going against, like, a Ziggs ADC in lane, that's pretty bad news. So anything that pokes really heavily, or anything that has sustain and harass. Now, you can still make it through lane. It's not like it's so brutal that you can't do it against these champions, but it's just a little bit tougher, and you're going to outscale them later into the game. So don't be too scared if they have something like a Nami to pick Lulu. It's okay. You're not going to be able to do as much in lane. It's going to be a little rougher, but it's fine. You can wait until the mid game, especially if you have someone like a Hecarim or a Yasuo on your team, or a Kha'Zix. Sometimes it's okay to pick a lane that's not ideal if it's going to help you out in the mid game. So if you need that engage from Lulu, if that'll really help out a lot with your Kha'Zix, even if they have like a Sona Varus lane, it's going to be rough in lane, but it might be worth it to pick that just because you're going to make your Kha'Zix such a beast later in the game. So that's just something you have to measure out yourself. I have an entire video about that. Let me pull that up real quick, actually. Called Compositions and Matchups, because last stream, several people were asking me, well, how do I know which champion to pick when? Just look at this Compositions and Matchups video right here, and it'll tell you some of the stuff that I'm saying right now, but in much more depth. So just thinking about, well, what does your team need? Why should you pick this? What are the trade-offs to these different types of strategies, that type of stuff. So very helpful if you check out that guide. Okay, so good with engagers, good with champions that use Hurricane or have poke in lane, bad against sustainers in lane, but you can overcome them later in the game. Okay, recommended items, Ionian boots. The vast majority of the time, you need that extra CDR really badly. She needs it more than any other support in the game, I think, because your W is so important, and it's on such a long cooldown. Like, you have to get CDR. It's so powerful. That's an extremely good stat on Lulu. Redemption Locket, Ruby Sightstone, the standard on any utility support. This is what you get. Lulu's no exception. Now, keep in mind that because her ult is not a direct heal, it doesn't benefit from plus healing, right? Because it says they just get bonus health. That's it. So it doesn't benefit from plus healing. The only thing that benefits from plus healing in your whole kit is your shield. So you don't really want to be going things like Mikhail's as much as possible if you can get away with it, because that plus 20% healing is going to go to waste. Redemption is still so strong that you want it anyways, even though Lulu's not amazing with plus heal. But also keep in mind that your Locket and your Redemption also benefit from plus heal. So even items that you use benefit from your plus healing. So that extra 10% you get on Redemption does stack with Redemption itself, and it does stack with Locket. And Ruby Sightstone is, if you're going to get these two items, if you're going to get Redemption and Locket, the 20% cooldown is tremendous. Because there are so many times, if you don't get this, where your team will get into a huge fight, and you've got like 10 seconds left on your Redemption, and it's just too late to do anything. And Ruby Sightstone makes sure that doesn't happen. It also has a ton of health on it, which helps you survive. So that kind of mitigates your squishiness a little bit, as does having a Locket. Oh, jeez. It's not good. Well, hopefully I don't get sick off of that. We'll see. I just try to take a sip of water. This water glass that I had that was in the cabinet like it was clean, and it's got like some like crusty chocolate milk at the bottom. Anyways, not a clean glass. So we'll see. If I become violently ill, you know, we'll work around that, I suppose. But check your glasses before you fill them with water. It's almost always good to go, but I guess the dishwasher just didn't get that one. But anyways, they did buff Ardent Sensor recently too, which is very good on Lulu. I still think that Redemption and Locket are better, because these are team-oriented. If you have a super fed AD carry, then maybe getting the Ardent Sensor faster would be better, but overall, I think the team fighting from Redemption and Locket is going to be better. Now, there are alternative builds you could do, and I've been looking lately at some pro players that have been playing some of this Lulu action. And a lot of people will get Eye of the Watchers. Instead, this does give you better early game harassment. It doesn't give you the 20% cooldown. on Redemption. If you're planning on getting Ardent Censer instead of Locket, which is totally possible, then it would be possible to go Watchers into Redemption into Ardent Censer. So that's a possibility. And you can also go for Thunderwards instead of Wind Speakers. We'll talk about that here in a second, but this is a much more aggressive build. Great for early game harassment, but it's going to have a little bit less utility. I mean, remember that Wind Speakers is not necessarily amazing on Lulu because her ult doesn't benefit from it, but your Redemption and Locket do benefit from it. So if you're going Redemption and Locket, I still think that Wind Speakers is better for the mid game, but if you're going Ardent Censer plus Redemption, then you're only going to have one item that benefits from it, so maybe it is better to go Thunderlords in that case. There's a lot of different ways you can build her. And this person, Gorilla, who's one of the best supports in the world, actually goes for the Precision and Greenfather's Gift early on, just for additional harassment. And he also goes for magic damage runes, so he does 1 ability power Quint, and then looks like all ability power blues, all health yellows. Then he goes for the dual pin, the Precision reds. Gives him the penetration and the lethality, which makes your auto attacks hit like a truck in lane. And then he goes for a couple of armor runes. So if you want to go heavy harass Lulu, this is definitely a way to do it. And that's definitely a viable playstyle. I'll have to try it out. I haven't tried it as much, but I was just researching a little bit for this video. I just wanted to show you this is a different style of play where you can go all in on the early game harass. I guess he figured he had to match Karma, and he was kind of against Ezreal, who's a pushover in lane, so he really wanted to pressure him hard early. So it kind of makes sense in that context. And he gets 3 points in Q for early game harass, or this game he did, and then you want to max Whimsy. So the main thing that I'll talk about some more here in a little bit is you want to max Whimsy outside of lane. So once you get past level 6, once you go to 7 to 10, you want to max Whimsy, and then 1 to 5 you have choices. So you can max Q if you want a little bit more damage, a little bit more harass, or you can max E to still keep some harass in there, but to have a better mid game where you can shield your allies that will complement your Whimsy and the team fighting. So it just depends on how much power you want early versus how much power you want in the 7 to 10 range when you're going to be contesting dragons and tier 2 towers and such. So it just depends on just how powerful your lane can be. So there's a lot of contingencies with Lulu. She's very hard to build correctly because there's so many options, and she's hard to play correctly. My runes that I like to run more armor and CDR, because CDR is just so important on Lulu. I mean, that extra, you get 7.5% CDR, which is really nice. I mean, that's an extra 1.5 seconds or so off of your W before that comes back up. And obviously it saves your ultimate, an additional 7 seconds or so before it's back up. And I like having move speed Quints as well. Having that extra, because her move speed is lower than other supports, which is something I forgot to mention. She only has 330 move speed, whereas someone like Zyra has 340, Janna has 340. So she is a little bit pokier in terms of speed. So if you get that 3% move speed, then that makes up for that, right? So 3% of 330 is about 10, right? It's 9.9. So that will get you up to that 340 move speed, so you can keep up with the other supports. So that's just something that I like in the mid game. The AP falls off. I mean, if you have 15 AP, her ratios are bad. I mean, if you hit someone with a Glitter Lance with 15 AP, you're doing 7 extra damage. If you hit somebody with picks, it's 0.6 extra damage. I mean, her ratios are awful. So that's why I don't think that the AP it's a 0.4 on the damage side of it. That's why I don't think AP is that great on her. I mean, it's okay, like I said, but I feel like having that move speed that's going to scale later into the game, so this 7 damage is not going to matter past levels 1 to 3. But having an extra 10 move speed can matter even at 45 minutes. I mean, that could be the difference between you get away from that person chasing you or not, or you can reposition so you don't get hit by that AoE ultimate or not, right? So, once again, I tend to build more for the mid to late game rather than the early game, but it is an option. You can go more AP if you want, but I usually just like getting CDR, movement speed, and then going Redemption, Locket, Wind Speakers. But obviously, Gorilla knows what he's doing, and he's very good. So if you want to go for the more early game harass Lulu, I think that's definitely viable. It all just depends, like I said, if you want to get Locket or if you want to get Ardent Sensor. If you want Locket, you need Wind Speaker. If you want to go Ardent Sensor, then you can get Thunderlords. Okay, so popular comparisons. Lulu versus Janna. So Lulu has more harass in lane. With the Janna has virtually no harass in lane. You can like shield yourself and auto attack, and that's about it. So Janna is strictly playing for later in the game. Excuse me. Lulu has much stronger engage potential. So like I said, you cast that W on someone, they run in, do a lot of damage. It's great. Janna can't really do that. I mean, people do get some move speed for walking towards Janna, but her W is just too dangerous. You can't walk up and slow people a lot of the time. Like, you can try it, but you're really opening yourself up. Whereas Lulu can just put that W on the Kha'Zix, Rengar, Hecarim, or whatever, and just tell them to go to work. You have greater single target burst healing. So Janna has good healing over time if they stand in your ultimate, but you can only do that if they're close to you. If they're running away from you, if they're chasing people, or they're engaging in a fight, it's going to be hard to pull that off. So Lulu can do that. And she has better long-term crowd control. So Janna has some nice burst crowd control where she knocks people back with her R, and her Tornado, can knock people up for like 0.5 seconds. And her, her W can obviously slow people a little bit, but that's still nothing compared to the, if it's a long-term fight, that just being able to cast multiple Ws for 2.25 seconds on multiple priority threats is a huge deal. So Lulu's going to be much better in a very long fight, I think, if you get to use lots of Ws. Okay, Janna has better range on her shields, which is a big deal. I mean, having 800 range on your shield versus 625 is a huge deal. There's been so many times where I've been like just out of range with Lulu where I can't get that last heal off. So Janna has 25% more range on her shields, which is a big deal. Her Q is more useful. Like the Tornado can stop a lot of stuff, can stop a lot of engages that Lulu can't. Glitter Lance is kind of, it's not worthless outside of the laning phase, but it's certainly falls off in usefulness outside of the laning phase. You have better AoE healing and disengage, so she's really good at knocking back a ton of people, healing your entire team. Just really good at dealing with multiple threats, a lot better than Lulu. Lulu's often very focused. Like, you have a specific threat you're trying to neutralize, or you have a specific ally that you're trying to buff up, whereas Janna seems like she can help multiple people a little bit better in various ways. Janna scales much better with plus healing items, so if you're going to need a Mikhail's Crucible or something, if they have an Ashe, and you don't want to play Tahm Kench, then Janna's going to scale much better with that plus healing. So Janna almost unanimously, wants to go for the Locket Redemption, Sightstone, possibly Mikhail's, or she's also good with Ardent Sensor. Janna's much safer because of these longer ranges. She has multiple things to get people off of her, and she's just much easier to play. Like, all of her abilities are very straightforward. Like, you Tornado the thing coming at you, you ultimate if people are in trouble, you shield your ally, and you use W to slow down enemies. Whereas Lulu, like, almost every ability has multiple uses in different situations, so it's very hard to make decisions with Lulu in team fights. Alright, Lulu versus Karma. Lulu has stronger shields. Remember Karma's shield? And people talk about this sometimes. They're like, oh, Karma's, so great at shielding, and it's like, well, no, she's not, really. If you look at it. Karma's a very early game champion. Like, her ultimate shield, if she uses her ultimate on her shield, yes, is a good shield. But her ultimate's only up every 30 seconds or so, depending on how often you hit enemy champions. But the base shield on it is only 190. So it is on less of a cooldown, which is nice. Yeah, they only get the move speed for 1.5 seconds. It's nice. It's a burst move speed. So she can get up to 60% move speed for 1.5 seconds, whereas Lulu gives 30% for 4 seconds. So it just depends on what you need. But yeah, she only gets 190, whereas Lulu gets 240. Now, once again, yes, if she ults, she gets up to like a 400 shield. So yes, that is good if she ults with that shield. But, once again, that's once every 30 seconds. So Karma's good at kind of burst engagement. The fight's over really quickly. Lulu would be much better in a longer engagement, as would Janna. So anyways, Lulu's shield stronger in longer fights. You have that point-click CC, super powerful. Karma only has the lockdown here, and it's delayed. Like, it takes a second and a half, I think, before it actually roots them. And it only roots them for up to 2 seconds if you max this, which you're not going to max this. You're probably going to max your shield. You're going to get 3 points in lane for Q, and then outside of lane, you can decide whether you want to max your Q or your shield. And you're just going to get 1 point in this, so it's just going to be a 1 second root duration, most likely. And it takes like a second and a half to go off. I believe. It doesn't say... Anyways, it's delayed. So when that Karma jumps in, or not Karma, when the Katarina jumps in and ults, your whole team's going to be dead by the time this roots them. Keep in mind that a root is not the same as a polymorph either. They can still cast spells. They can't cast summoner spells, but they can still hit you with spells. So it's not the same as a polymorph. They can still auto-attack you. If you root the AD carry, they can still just attack you and kill you. So the root is not nearly as good as the polymorph. So I think that having that extra 2.5 or 2.25 second CC is very powerful. I just think she's overall just way more useful later in the game. Like, Karma's very good at poking early game. She has tremendous burst damage early on, especially if you ult and cast her Q. So she has great early game harassment, and later on, she can ultimate shield your entire team if they're all balled up, so they can all run in, engage a fight, and they have this shield on them for a second and a half, or for 4 seconds rather. So that's good. If you get everyone together, everyone's clumped up, you ult, shield everybody, lock at everybody, talisman everybody in, you know, that type of thing. But how often does that happen in solo queue? Like, in my solo queue games, at least that I see, there's so many times where people are just spread out, constantly getting caught out of position, no one's ever grouped up. It's just, like, super hard to get people to group. And I think Karma only excels where you have tightly coordinated teams that are grouped up and that are ready to engage into strong fights, aka pro teams. Even pro teams aren't using her as much now. They're using her a little bit, but the nerfs were pretty brutal to her over the last couple of patches. So anyways, I think that Karma can be very good in professional play, but in solo queue, I think I like Lulu a lot more. So yeah, Karma has better early game harass, better AoE shielding in those tightly coordinated engages. She's safer and she's easier to play. So those are kind of the bonuses of Karma. Okay, how are we looking on time here? It's about 52 minutes. Okay, I'll pick it up a little bit here. I always try to get these to be about an hour, and they end up being more. Okay, so let's look at how to lane really quickly. So I recommend doing 3 points in E and harassment. It's guaranteed point click harass, and it doubles as a shield in the mid game. So if you need to protect people in the mid game, the E is the shield. So you get, you know, up to 160 damage, just point click, boom, there's your damage. So you can't miss it. It's great. It is lower range, but if you hide behind minion waves, you know, and get it, it's good. It's still longer than auto attack ranges. So if someone goes up for an auto attack on a minion, you can hit them with the picks. So it's not as much damage as your Q, right? Or actually it's 140 damage. It's not as much damage, whereas a level 3 Q would give you 170 damage, which is quite a lot more. But it's guaranteed to hit. And it doubles in the mid game as a shield. So then when you're trying to fight for Baron, or that assassin jumps on your AD carry or whatever, then you also can get the shield for 160 in the mid game when it's level 3, which is a big deal. I mean, that's 10% extra health a lot of times, because your AD carry won't have more than 1600 health. So that's pretty big. So it's less damage, but it's more versatile and gives you more better team fighting capabilities in the mid game. Whereas, you know, this is not going to do that much. It's going to do some damage, but you don't get any extra slow out of it. And you're just going to do a little bit more damage in the mid game. So it's okay. It does have some more harass to it. The mana costs are cheaper, so you can actually spam it to harass. It does have better wave clear, although they've nerfed it somewhat. It still has okay wave clear, sort of, kind of. So it's more damage, more wave clear, less consistency, less defense, and then this is just more consistent, doubles as damage and shielding in the mid game, but it does cost more mana. So I don't know. It's tough to say. Like I said, I like having the versatility of transforming from a harassed champion in the early game into a very powerful shielding utility champion in the mid game, but you can go for more harass if you really want to put the screws to them, really run them out of lane. Then you can go for the triple Q in lane. That's going to leave your shield very weak in the mid game, though, so just be aware of that. All right, you definitely, no matter if you go 3 points in Q or 3 points in E in lane for the harass, fine. But you definitely want to max your W starting at level 7. I mean, that's what all the pros that I've seen do, and that's what I do as well, right? You start maxing your W at level 7 because you need that extra crowd control, you need that extra engage, and you would like that extra tower taking power. I mean, don't forget that this, extra attack speed that it gives helps you take towers faster. You throw that on your AD carry, they're just going to be like boom, 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 boom. They're going to take towers much faster. So by level 7, that's usually when lanes start breaking, when you start roaming around more. You absolutely want to start leveling your W then, regardless of if you go Q or E first. And I've seen different pros do it different ways. A lot of people like the Q, but I still think I like E. But either way, W. That's what you start getting at level 7. You, of course, get 1 at level 3. But at level 7, you want to start maxing it. So like I said, you can do 3 points in Q for more damage. If you do that, go with Thunderlords. It's more harass, but less utility. It works great if you want to go with the Eye of the Watchers and Ardent Sensor build. Okay, so you want to play forward like you want to do with almost every support. Play forward, try to get harass whenever they go for CS. Do not let them get free creeps. You need to be hitting them with auto attacks, spells, anything. Make them pay for it. No free creeps. They always pay the price anytime they want some gold. Your standard harass combo is going to be put an E on them, auto attack them, Q them. That does a pretty good chunk of damage. And remember, like I said earlier, you want to watch where Pix is located depending on where you want to throw your Q. So you can actually hit both enemies with a Q if you're really paying attention. Good players can juke the Pix though, so they can just like rotate back and forth really quickly, and it makes Pix jump from shoulder to shoulder. And so it can be hard to figure out how to hit them with the Q, but people in most elos won't do that. Okay, you always want to try to put the damage on the AD carry. You want them to leave lane. If their support has to leave lane, that's okay, but if the AD carry has to leave lane, that's really good. People are still building Doran single pot in a lot of elos, so they're going to have a lot less sustain than the support. A lot of people are also sort of skipping off of Warlords and going towards Fervor and things like that, so that can be helpful. Hold on to your W in most situations unless it's going to be an all-in fight. Just in case the jungler shows up. That's your one escape. So, that'll help out if the jungler shows up. Remember that you can shield a minion and then Q for sneaky poke. So, like I said earlier, if you put the shield on a minion, I don't think it shields them anymore, but you can put the Pix on the minion and then throw your Q and get a max range of 1550 for the harass. It uses a lot of mana to do that, but if they just have 50 health left and they're trying to sneak around and not go back, then that's a good way you could potentially finish them off. Okay, you can also use your W to help the jungler engage. So if you see your junglers coming up through the tri-bush, walk over there and throw a W on them really quick and make sure they can run up. Or if your jungler gets too far ahead of you and your AD carry is out of range, put your W on the AD carry, help them run up and get in there. So you can use your W to help people run ahead and chase people down. And usually that's better than a polymorph. Polymorph is if you're fighting to stop people from doing damage, but if you're trying to run people down, speeding up your own allies is often better than polymorphing. It depends. Because when they're polymorph, they can still run at a much slower pace. They can still scamper away. But if your person is sped up, then they may not be able to get away from it. However, I mean, if they have an escape that's going to come off cooldown, then maybe polymorph is better. It's tough to say. Just know that's an option where you can speed your allies up to go run people down. You want it in an all-in situation. Often you want to be shielding your allies because the shield, once again, this depends though, but the shield scales with their resistances. So if they're blocking 25% of physical damage and you put a shield on them and your shield shields for 200, then all of a sudden they have to do 250 damage to break your shield because of the way that resistances scale with shields. Whereas if you would do 200 damage to them and they have the 25% magical damage resistance, then if you hit them with your 200 damage E, then it would only deal, what, 150 damage. So you're getting 250 shield versus 150 damage, if that makes sense. So it's almost always better to shield rather than to deal damage, if you can, in an all-in situation. Okay. Now, keep in mind also that the E grants true sight, so depending on the champion, this could be a big deal. So if it's Kha'Zix is trying to run around and go invisible, you can get vision of him. If it's Akali, you can get vision. If it's Vayne, she's trying to roll around and go invisible, you can get vision. So you can get true sight of these people for 4 seconds. I believe. I'll have to double check that, but it says that grants true sight of the person, so it should still check for invisibility. It's also good if they're in bushes. So if they're trying to escape or run in and out of bushes or something, if you put the E on them, then you're still going to be able to see them in the bush. So if you're out of wards or something and there's a gank bot lane and the AD carry is about to roll into a bush and maybe be able to flash and escape or something like that, then you can put the E on them and they'll see them in the bush. Okay. You can also E forward on a champion. So if someone's running forward, you can put the E on your ally, and as they run forward, then you can use the Q once they get close to the enemy and actually slow someone down based off of where your person was. So Pix has a companion range of 2,000. So if your ally runs 2,000 ahead, you can still have Pix on them and cast Glitter Lance at 925. So theoretically, you could hit someone with a Glitter Lance, max range of 2,925 range. So it's tricky to do that all the time, but it's nice. So if anyone's ever going to engage, usually just start them off with a shield. It does shield them, obviously prevents damage, but it also lets you throw your Q on people at a greater distance. And then as always, you want to go ward whenever your lane is pushed in. Okay, so I've got a clip of Lulu, or I thought I had a clip of Lulu. Let me grab that clip. Dang it, I thought I had it all lined up here. I think I've got it right here. Okay, here we go. Play another game of League of Legends. Alright, so I'm going to turn off the sound here. And we'll just watch a little bit of this just so you can kind of see the laning phase. Now this guy was either like AFK or lagging or just really scared. I don't know what the situation is, but you can see kind of my laning harassment patterns here. So he's just kind of running back at level 1. We know there's a Braum in this bush, but like he is unreasonably scared of this Braum. Okay, so we're going back up. Just watch how I try to get harassment on this Kate. She has headshot, so I don't want to go in yet. There's Braum. Get a couple auto attacks on him, make him run out of there. Okay, he hits Kate. Now I'm going to try to run up, after he uses that especially. Get an auto on him. Now I'm going to try to run up as soon as I can and get an EQ on this Kate. Once I hit level 2. I'm only level 1 right now. So I'm just hanging out near the minion wave. I'm trying to get closer. Now, Caitlyn is a bit more dangerous because she has a really high attack range. Okay, there. Got her. So you see I put the E on her. Now you see the picks floating around her there. After I did the E, I'll rewind that just a little bit there. There we go. I'll slow it down so you can kind of see what's going on. Okay, so I'm going up. All right, now I've got picks on her. So I just hit her with the E. And now picks will be on a particular shoulder. So you want to pause for a second and watch where Pix goes. Okay, Pix is on her right side because she moved to the left. If she moved to the right, Pix would have been on the left side. So that means to hit them with this Pix bolt. Now I can just throw it straight ahead as Lulu too. It'll fire 2 bolts. So one comes from Lulu and one will come from Pix, you'll see. If either one of those bolts hits, it does full damage. If both hit, it doesn't do any extra damage. So it's just different angles where you can fire the same spell. Okay? So I throw it to the right. You'll see it hits her. And Braum. It hits both of them because it goes through both of them. And my Pix right here also goes through and hits her. But it doesn't do any extra damage. Alright. So that's a good way to harass. So I mean, I could have, if you throw the Pix on them, and Pix last for like 5 seconds, I think. It's quite a while. So you can throw the E on them and then run away for a little bit if you want, and then hit them with the Q. But you'll see Pix goes away here in a second. It's still on them. Okay, and it goes back. They just make sure you can't get multiple Qs off, even with cooldown reduction, off of just one E hitting, because it'd be pretty overpowered. Okay, so let's continue on for a little bit. Alright, so I'm just going to try to do the same pattern. Once these come off a cooldown, I'm going to try to walk up. When she goes for this cannon minion, probably. I can't get there in time. I got kind of creep blocked. When she goes up for one of these, though, I will try to get a Pix on her. Okay, so she's using her Q because she's scared of me. So you notice how for a lot of this, though, I'm kind of playing up near the front. Because Braum can't really do anything. I'm getting some auto attacks in on him. Oh, I do want to mention, too, in that previous clip, the reason that I didn't auto attack her is because I was sitting in a bunch of minions. I won't go all the way back there, but if you have to walk up to do picks in the middle of a huge minion wave, don't auto attack, because if you auto attack, all the minions will hit you. So if there's not many minions there, you can picks, auto, Q for kind of a quick 3-hit combo, and that will also proc Thunderlords if you have Thunderlords. I don't have Thunderlords this game. But if you're in the middle of a huge minion wave, do not auto-attack or they all hit you. You can still cast spells on them, so you can still hit them with picks and Q, and the minions will not hit you. But the second that you land an auto-attack on them, they all turn and hit you, which means you're going to take a lot of free damage. And that's particularly important for Lulu because she doesn't have any self-sustain, so you don't want to take damage as Lulu. Okay, so I'm trying to walk up. Positioning. I had to turn around because I know Braum's going to throw that on me, and she backed up. Okay, so he hits me. I'm going to try to get her as soon as she goes for this one, I think. Notice how I'm kind of playing up a little bit, but I've got to be careful for Braum. Caitlyn is tricky because she has such a long auto range. Okay, got her, I think. Nope. I tried to get her, but she has such long range, she can back up in time. So I just shielded myself instead to prevent some damage. Alright, just put it on Braum there, and then I fired it off of Braum to hit Caitlyn with the Q. So he's attacking into too many minion waves. Alright, so I polymorphed her just to stop the damage a little bit. It's safe to use the polymorph there because we're so backed into a tower that a gank's not going to work on us. We'll just watch maybe 30 more seconds of this, and then I'll move on to something else. But I just wanted to show you some of the stuff I was talking about in action here. Okay, so she's got her headshot, so I need to wait on that. Okay, good. Now we'll get an auto in on her, walk into the bush so the minions stop targeting me. Alright, as soon as she starts going for some more of the CS, I'm going to walk up a bit more. I'm just waiting on my cooldowns. Okay. Alright, got it on her. So I tried to wait until his shield wore off before I could picks, but I had to just use it. Alright, so we're pushing her in. Playing forward a little bit here. There's her headshot. I'm going to try to get another combo on her. Can't quite do it. She's got a lot of long range. And I see Varus is back in, so I'm just going to bail. Alright, so that's okay. We pushed him in. We got some harass down. We backed. So, as you can see, her harass is not tremendous in lane, depending on the matchup. Caitlyn's pretty rough because Caitlyn has really good range. And pause this for now, and then we'll come back here in a second. But it's okay. We kept them off of Varus for a little while, but that's just kind of some ways that you can harass in lane with Lulu. So it's not going to be as brutal as something like Zyra, but you can throw down a little bit of harassment and do some damage. Okay, like I said, this Varus wasn't really doing that much. Like whenever I landed the EQ slow, he could have walked up and auto, you know, hit him with an arrow or something, but he wasn't really helping me contest any of those CS. He was just sitting back, occasionally throwing an arrow, but he wasn't playing forward with me to land autos on her, which is what we should be doing, but, you know, that's just how it is a lot of times in solo queue. Okay, so the final section here, and then that'll be it for the video, is how to team fight. So there's a couple of different ways you can approach team fight. So one is you help your ally engage. So you have a Hecarim, you have a Kha'Zix, you have a Rengar, just somebody that needs to run in there and get close to them. You can use your W to help your ally run in and engage in the fight. Or you can save your W if they have an assassin, if they're about to start a fight, whenever their Kha'Zix jumps in, or their Rengar, or their Hecarim, or whatever, you can W them and crowd control them for a while. So the priority, once the fight starts, in my mind, is use the W as crowd control, polymorph someone who's really dangerous. That's the top priority. Just get that polymorph on someone who's dangerous, because that's the most powerful use of that ability, I think. Another one is you can help your ADC kite. So if they're getting crowd controlled, or they just can't get away from something like an Olaf or whatever, use your W, put it on your AD carry, help them run away from things. and kite. Very helpful. Finally, you can use your W to help allies run down enemies. So if you catch people out, if you get a couple of people and they're just trying to run down and kill some stragglers, then using the W can help with that. Okay, use your E on allies to help with damage mitigation. So I recommend not doing aggressive, damage-oriented E's on people unless they're one of those invisible champions that I mentioned, like the Akali, Kha'Zix, Vayne, and you need vision on them. Use the E on allies to help you with damage mitigation because of the way that it scales. Like I said earlier, it's better to shield allies than to damage enemies because it's going to be more efficient. Use R early. As I think I've mentioned it before in the video, don't be afraid to use your R for crowd control to knock a bunch of people up and to put a slow on a champion that is just tearing up their backline, like a Kha'Zix or something, because you can't overheal with it. It's going to be 100% efficient most of the time, and it's on a really low cooldown. So don't worry about if they're at full health when they're doing that. If it's your engaged champion and they're about to take a lot of damage, just go ahead and do it. Knock people up, get the slow going. I'll guarantee you they're going to hit that person and do damage to them over 7 seconds. So just don't be afraid. Like, don't try to hold it until the last moment on someone who's about to die and then use it. Like, you can do that, but too many people try to do that. And you risk the person actually dying, or you risk just, like, before you can get it off, or they might die anyways, even when you cast it. And then you're wasting the slow, you're wasting the knock-up. And it could have just been a lot easier to do it on someone who's full health. I mean, maybe they... like, you do it on the person and they just run out of the fight and don't contribute to the fight anyways because they're almost dead. And they're like, oh man, thanks for the save. And they don't do anything with that extra health. So it really didn't change that much if they died or not in a large team fight. I mean, it can matter. But I'm just saying that in general, don't be afraid to use it early for the crowd control, for the slow, for the extra damage mitigation. It's kind of the same thing with a KO ult. Sometimes people are like, oh, well, why did KO ult when she has 75% health? Because when you KO ult, you want to prevent the maximum amount of damage. So if they're about to hit you with a bunch of stuff, you ult. You don't want to save your KO ult until you are basically dead, because they probably already used all of their heavy damage abilities on you. And so now you're just preventing auto attack damage. And then when you are unulted, then you're going to die anyways because you're already really low. So, you know, some of these like save type of things people want to hold until the very end, when in fact a lot of times it's much more efficient to use it earlier to prevent the maximum amount of damage. All right. You try to use your Q to hit multiple targets. So just line it up if you can when you're positioning to see if you can get Q to hit a bunch of different people. Be very, very careful with your clicks. This is what makes Lulu one of the most challenging mechanical champions, I think, as support to play. Like, yes, she doesn't have hook skill shots like Thresh does, but you have to click on the right people with these abilities. And that can be a huge deal if you screw this up. So, for example, your W and your E can hit both enemies or allies, and they have very different effects, especially W, depending on who you hit. So if you're trying to polymorph that assassin that's on your AD carry and you accidentally click on your AD carry to speed them up and they die anyways, that's a big deal. Whereas if you had polymorphed them, they might have lived. Or if you're trying to shield an ally but you accidentally damage a full health enemy, that could be a game-ending mistake, depending on what happens in that fight. So you need to be very, very careful with your click. With your E, you can actually click on the champion portraits. Right here, you can shield using this. I wish they would like make their interface more modular so you could put allies like right here and click on them that way. That would help so much, but they've got them way over here, so sometimes it's just not reasonable if you're clicking all this stuff and trying to move around over here to go over here with your mouse and click on somebody. Although that's the best way to do it. Sometimes you just have to try to click on them in traffic. But that can be a fatal mistake if you misclick. So she's one of the only champions that has both. Like, it's always available to either hit allies or enemies. And it can be a huge deal. I mean, Tahm Kench is kind of like this, where you can accidentally eat minions if the minion's overlapping. Or if someone has a lot of fish on them, you can eat an ally when you mean to eat a minion, or when you mean to eat an enemy, or you can eat an enemy when you mean to eat an ally. So Tahm Kench kind of struggles with this as well, because there's not a good targeting system other than just clicking on somebody in the game. But this is something that you definitely want to be aware of. So like I said, the shielding you can kind of fix by clicking on portraits, but the W, the polymorph, you just got to hit it. And so yeah, it's not a Thresh hook or something, but it still can be a big deal if you don't click on the right thing. So just be very, very careful where you're aiming, and just do your best to not only make the right decision, what you should do in the fight, but to actually execute it and mechanically click on the right thing. And that can be a big deal if there's, you know, 4 enemies all just piled into a huge clump, and you have to polymorph that little Annie that's like right in the middle, and there's a huge Mundo like standing around him or something. It can be extremely hard to click on the right champion in that situation. So it's tough. It takes a lot of practice, and I still make mistakes doing that, and I know a lot of people do. So that's what makes Lulu very difficult to play also. And just in general, stay really far in the back as well, and only attack the closest target. Do not try to go up and auto-attack their AD carry or whatever. Just stay really far back as you can, and just auto-attack whatever's closest to you, just like any other squishy champion. Be sure to ward your flanks and try to clear teleport wards. Flanks are brutal against Lulu because she doesn't have a lot of ways to escape, and she really relies on good positioning. So you need to have anytime a fight breaks out, you need to be throwing down wards on your sides as much as possible behind you. Just make sure that you can see everything. And before a fight breaks out, ideally you will have had the area swept so that you can see if there are teleport wards or not. Okay, so I'll show one team fight here with Lulu, and then that'll be the end of the video. Now, it's not much of a team fight, but it shows some of the mechanics of what's going on here. I think I said it's 1730. Let me see. Okay. We'll show the build up to it here. This is kind of a very common situation. Alright, so people are out of our lane. There's a big fight going down middle. I'm like, oh crap, I have to go there because they have a Zed and a Graves, and they're going to take our tower. So I've got to rotate up there. They just killed the mid laner. I've got good ward coverage here, so we see where they are. Yeah, they definitely would have taken it if we didn't intervene. Okay, so I'm very close to being in range of this guy.
Where's that charger?
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, get it for me.
Okay, this is almost over. I'll get it in a second. Yeah, you're going to have to wait. But he flashes forward, so he flashes ahead of me. And goes for the smite. Alright, so now that I try to come over and help him, I'm caught, because Graves is here. Now I see that Malachi is coming up, so it's not the end of the world just yet. Okay, so I've got to run. So I just E him. I should have probably shielded myself there, Q'd him to try to run, polymorph him here. Wait until Polymorph's about to run out. I try to bait him by walking back forward because I see Malachi's coming. I get him to come after me. Ult myself. Knock up the Braum. Shield myself. Here in a second. Walk out. We've got Malachi there. Okay, we've got Varus coming up. Alright, so I think I cast the speed up on Varus here so he can run up there closer. Okay, yeah. So I just speeded him up. So he should be able to run down this Graves. He's running forward. Do I shield him? No, I saved the shield. Okay, I put the picks on him, put the slow on him, and he gets away. So I was able to bait them with a couple of kills because of the polymorph, because of the ultimate. And then I can use the W again to rotate around the map and get back over here. So it's really good for rotations. As long as you're pretty sure you're not going to get caught out and die, which is dangerous, you can run around the map pretty quickly as with picks. Or with your W. So anyways, that's it for this clip. But yeah, just showing you a little bit of the team fighting, what you can do. You know, polymorph threats, you can bait people and ult them. Obviously, you don't want to do that on yourself that often because people can just flat out murder you if you do that, but you can just see some of the different versatility in different modes, right? So you can speed allies up to go finish off kills, you can polymorph people, you can shield yourself with E, you can hit enemies with E. I should have shielded, I don't remember. I think shielding myself was right there, but another option would be shielding Malachi, and then when they try to run away, using the Q off of Malachi to slow them down. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please check out the Lulu playlist as well if you'd like. I only have 7 videos in there right now, but I'm going to be adding a lot more over the next few days. I just have a ton of Lulu clips because she's been very powerful on this patch. So I will bust that out pretty soon for you. Then I'll show you the channel as well if you're new to the channel. We have all the past streams right here. And if you click on the streams, we'll mute it there. You can see exactly when each game starts, the champion that I use for the game, and the runes that I use for each game. So it makes it real easy to navigate, real simple. And then I have a frequently asked question if you want to know like different aspects of champions that I play, like why are AP champions so good? Why do I usually sell gold items? Why do I build certain items on Zyra? I have a lot of good stuff in the FAQ. I have the latest tier list also linked, and I have my latest guide linked. So I have the Zyra one linked, and I will add the Lulu one on there pretty soon. So the streams start at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, and usually I will play them on the weekends as well. But it just depends. A thing that subscribers have wanted to do lately that I have begun honoring. It's going to make my climb a little bit slower, but it makes it fun and interesting, and who doesn't like donations? So people can donate $25 if they want on stream, and I will play whichever champion they want. So if they, you know, I even played Master Yi one game because people donated $25 as support. So I did it on this stream, particularly 3 different people donated. So we have Blitz, Master Yi, and Braum. Now, once again, I want to stress this is something that viewers came up with, right? So I give away all my stuff on the stream for free. If you want to know about Master Yi support, I will tell you about it. I'll give you the best commentary I can possibly give for free. And I make lots of guides for different champions. But if you just want to force me to play a champion that you really want to see me to play, either you think it would be amusing or you really just want to know my input on it and I just can't get to it sometimes, then I allowed for the $25 donation because it does take time. It does stop my climb, especially if it's in ranked and I lose, and I often do lose with these fun picks, but it just makes it, I don't know, it's just something that people came up with just to kind of make it worth the time, to slow down my climb a little bit, just for some fun stuff for viewers and for a little bit of donation money. But once again, that's completely optional. I will give you as much free advice as I possibly can about champions. But, you know, if you just want to force me to play a champion that you just want to see me play, that's something that we've come up with. Anyways, there's the past streams. We also have the guides. So you can see the in-depth tier list. You can see the compositions and matchups that I just talked about. You can see the how to carry in solo queue, understanding metagames, lots of different things available there. And with each one of these, if you click on it, just like this guide right here, it has the timestamps telling you the most important parts, and then it also has an accompanying Google Doc where you can go down and see exactly what I think in each one of these videos. And you can click and see for the tier list, the top 10 champions. I do little mini guides for each one of those. So if you want to see Zyra, just a real quick cheat sheet here, who she's good with, who she's good against, who she's bad with, who she's bad against, recommended items, runes, and masteries. It's all right there for you for the top 10 champions. So the videos take quite a long time to produce, the guides, but I think they're awesome. I think they're definitely worth it. And then we also have the playlist, so if you want to watch all Malzahar, all Zyra, all Tahm Kench, Janna, Nautilus, I have a bunch of different champions there. That's a ton of fun. I'm going to add more guides in. So far, I just have Zyra and now Lulu that I add in. And finally, if you're interested in Total War Warhammer, I do legendary campaigns for that. And it's a lot of fun. I deliberately get into really challenging fights. I don't abuse the auto-resolve system. I don't assassinate lords on the campaign map. I don't do any other shenanigans that I think make the game less challenging. I try to make it hard. I try to make it fun. So if you like strategy games, you want to go check that out. I think that's a lot of fun. And eventually I want to do some Civ 6 and XCOM 2 Long War. I haven't found the time for it lately, but I will look into that very soon. But anyways, thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. I hope you enjoyed this guide. Please check out the rest of the content on the channel, and I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful evening.